Welcome to part 2 of the Blender 4.5. You can access to all chapters and the other parts from the playlist here, and also the link is in the description. You already know about the Blender interface and basics and how to move and rotate the viewport. I explained them in the previous part, in the part 1. Now let's explain more details on the viewport. What is objects and how to delete them, how to move them, rotate them, and so on. As I said, these objects are listed here in the hierarchy list. We can say this is hierarchy. Simply, we can select them, and also the object we select here will be selected in the viewport as well, and vice versa. Every object in the scene has a specific entity, a specific property. For example, 3D models provide various shapes, but basically they are 3D model type. But this is a light, the type of light. We have many shapes of light, but the type of it is light, and this is camera. And the type of camera, we can change the camera, the lens, and other properties, but this is basically a camera. So we have many types of objects in the Blender that we can use it in the scene, and I'll explain how to add them. I will upload every chapter of the course every week, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification to know about the new chapters and new tutorials. First, let's explain how can move and rotate the objects, scale the objects, and so on. Here, we can select the cube, this is cube, and we can press this button, which is the move button, and move it along the x-axis. The red direction is the x-axis, this is y-axis. We can see these directions by their name here. The green line is the y-axis, and the z-axis, which is the up direction, is the blue. And easily we can move it in the x-axis, y, and by pressing the left click. And also we can press the center of them and move it in 3 directions. Alright, how to rotate the object. We can select the rotate tool and rotate in these directions, that is Y, this Y, Z, and X. Also we can rotate the object by pressing the center of the all directions and rotate along the all directions. Also we can use the move and rotate for this objects, light, and also the camera. I'll explain the light and camera capabilities and applications later, but I focus on the move and rotation tools for now. And the last tool is the scaling tool. You can select an object and scale it along the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. And also we can press the center here and scale it up or down along the all directions. Alright, but we can't scale this light because this light is not a 3D shape, a 3D object, and the scale tool is useful for 3D objects. We can scale a 3D object in any axis we want, but a light is just a sign, it's just a icon, and we can't scale it up or scale it down. But for some specific objects, for example camera, we can scale it up or down. It will affect on the lens and other properties of the camera. Alright, we have other ways to move and rotate and scale the objects. We can press the shift and a space and access to a menu just like this menu. Here we can press the move, and here move the object, or shift the space and rotate. Shift the space and scale. And also we have a transform tool, which we have transform here as well. We can access to rotate, move, and scale at the same time, and we have all the signs and icons of moving, rotating, and scaling the object. Also, the last tool I want to introduce is the measure tool, which we can select it from here. We can measure something, for example, left click here and drag. We can get the length of here, the starting point here, and until the end point, but this is not good. I wanted to measure the cube, the bottom part of the cube. We can do it in detail later, but this is the measurement tool. Also, we have keyboard shortcuts for transformation tools. We can press the G button on the keyboard and move the cube easily. If we press the left click, we can place the cube there, and also if you press G and press right click, we can cancel the transformation and it will get back to the previous position. Also, we can press G and we have a key guide on the bottom of the Blender. As you can see, if we press the X key, we can move the cube along the x-axis. If we press the Y key, we can move along the y-axis, and if we press the Z, we can move along the z-axis. If we press R, we can rotate the object in all directions, but we have the same structure just like movement tool. We can press the X to move along the x-axis, Y, and Z. And also we have the S key for the scaling tool. If we press the X, we have this, Y, and Z. Alright, these are the transformation tools. Now let's focus on adding objects and entities to the scene. For instance, 3D models, lights, cameras, and so on. How to do it? We can press the add here, or press the shift and A. Many Blender users, and I can say all the Blender users, use the shift and A, the keyboard shortcut. Here we have lists of entities that we can add to the Blender viewport. Here we can add mesh 3D models. We have many types of 3D models I'll add later, and I'll explain most important entities that we will use. Curve is a 2D object that makes a curve with custom points, for example, for hairs and so on. Text is obvious, is a text entity. Armature is useful for characters, which they provide skeleton, that I'll explain what a skeleton is in the future videos. We have light year, we have 4 types of light year, and we have the camera. Also, we have the audio system. I'll add all of these entities one by one. Let's focus on the mesh. The first one is the plane. Plane is a simple object that is useful for grounds, walls, and flat surfaces. I said it's simple. Simple means it has a few points or vertices that I'll explain what a vertex is. That is very light to compute. For instance, cube is more complicated than this plane. The next object is cube, and it is similar to this cube. We don't need it. We can press the delete button on the keyboard, and we have the circle. Your circle is a kind of 2D object not a 3D because just we have a ring here. It is useful to create some objects. It's a basic for creating some 3D objects. It's not a 3D itself. We have UV sphere. UV sphere is a kind of complex object. We have many points and vertices on this object. And the other hand, we have icosphere. Icosphere has a different structure, but it is lighter than this sphere. As you can see, these areas are the points or vertices of this sphere, and these areas are the vertices for this sphere. So as you can see, we have many points and vertices here, and this is more complicated than this sphere. The next object is cylinder, and it's a cylinder, and these points here are the vertices of the cylinder. It is not too complicated, but we can modify it, modify all of these 3D shapes later and make them more complicated or make them lighter by increasing and decreasing the vertices and the points on the object. Press the Shift A, and here we can access to the cone mesh. Here this is look like this object, this cylinder, and the number of vertices and the number of points are kind of similar to this cylinder. Here, as you can see, these areas are vertices, and the last object is truce. Here, can access to a more complicated object that is not very useful for our models. Let's delete it. These 3D objects here are primitive shapes that many 3D models will be created with these objects. Also, we have some other complicated objects, for example a monkey, that is very useful to test the lights and shaders, not for complicated modeling. Alright, here we have light and camera and audio, but I don't want to add them to the viewport because adding lights doesn't affect on the scene without going to the render view. I didn't explain the rendering. I will explain it, and after that I'll focus on the lights because it depends on the rendering section and also the camera related to the rendering. So I need to explain about rendering and the next part, then I'll focus on the light and camera.